If I do that, I'm
Good evening and welcome to the January 23rd, 2025 meeting of the Indian River County Planning and Zoning Commission. First meeting for 2025, and I suspect it's going to be a busy year. So we'll call this meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance. Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for not including this. Because this is the first meeting of the year, we do need to do the election of the chair and vice chair for the calendar year 2025. I ask that that be added immediately after this item, and then we'll proceed with normal order.
Okay, so we'll throw it to the,
We'll hand the gavel over to
Yep.
the attorney.
sounds good.
We can do the imaginary gavel. So going ahead and starting the first meeting of the year, do we have any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Todd Pagano for vice chair.
Second.
Do we have a motion?
We had a motion and a second, I believe,
I
right?
mean, sorry, your vote. Please excuse me.
Okay.
Have a second.
Your vote.
Aye.
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 Begrudgingly.
Congratulations, Mr. Bernardo. You are vice chair again.
Welcome. Gotta do it fast.
Do we have a nomination for chair?
Nominate Dr. Jonathan Day.
Second.
Call for a motion? I mean, so call for
Vote?
vote.
Aye.
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 Okay,
All right,
Abstaining?
there we go.
I think that finishes it, right?
I think it does. So now we have our chair and vice chair. Chair is Dr. Day and vice chair is Todd Pagano. Thank you, gentlemen.
Excellent. The first order of business is the approval of two sets of meeting minutes. The first is November 14th, 2024.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second is the set of minutes for December 12th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Both both sets of minutes are approved. We have 5 agenda items tonight. The first is an item that is on consent. I'll read it into the minutes. It's Marvis Oslo, and it's a request for a major site plan and administrative permit use approval for an automotive fluids, products, sales, and services other than gasoline facility. Mavis Tires and Brakes is the applicant. Equity One Florida Portfolio LLC is the owner. Bowler Engineering is the agent. The zoning is CL Limited Commercial. Land use designation is CI Commercial Industrial. Would anyone like to take this off consent for discussion? Anyone from the public want to take this off consent for discussion? Call for motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is approved. We now have 3 items that are not on consent. So I will begin with the first is Hammock Shores. And this is a request for preliminary plat approval for a 103-unit, single-family conventional subdivision. GRBK GHO Homes LLC is the applicant. Sulky, Biddle, and Stoddard LLC is the agent. The zoning is RS3, a residential single-family up to 3 units per acre. Land use designation is L1, low-density residential up to 3 units per acre. Proposed density is 1.71 units per acre. Any declaration of ex parte communications with this?
Nope.
Anyone who would like to speak on this, please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Very good. Staff presentation, please.
All right. Good evening, Chair and members of the board. Before you today is the Hammock Shores subdivision preliminary plat. The property is located south of 73rd Street, north of 96th Street, east of US Highway 1, and west of the Indian River Lagoon. On site is an aerial, just to give you an idea of what the site's going to look like. Just for clarification purposes, north will now be to the right of the screen. This is a conventional single-family development. We don't see these very often, but this is going to be something that's going to conform specifically to the RS3 zoning districts, which is our residential single-family 3 dwelling units to the acre. There is going to be 103 single-family lots, and the density for this proposed project is 1.71 units to the acre, so well below what's currently permitted and allowed on the property. Traffic circulation plan will be a standard road design with an emergency access connection to 73rd Street, and there'll be a full access connection to 69th Street. Stormwater plan calls for 3 stormwater areas that will handle all the stormwater for the site. Landscape plan is going to call for a 25-foot local road landscape buffer. Typically, a 20-foot local road landscape buffer is required. However, the applicant has decided to add an additional 5 feet on that to make 25 feet. The dedication and improvements for the site are external sidewalks, internal sidewalks in accordance with section 913.095B2 of our LDRs, street lighting, common area, green space, and recreation areas, and finally, the traffic report required an eastbound left turn lane on 69th Street at the project's entrance. Staff recommends that the PZC grant preliminary plat approval for the Hammock Shores subdivision with conditions listed in the staff report. These conditions are generally related to the final tree protection and mitigation plans, final landscape plans and buffer designs, final street lighting designs and installation, final dedication of the conservation area, the internal and external sidewalks and pedestrian systems, and finally, the installation of the off-site traffic improvements. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions on my right? Any commissioner questions on my left?
Yeah, I did.
Chip?
Any particular reason if the main access is on 69th instead of 73rd, or vice versa? I'm sorry.
So 69th Street is the road that is the most developed. So the applicant would have to incredibly improve 73rd Street, and it was just determined that that was the best way for the traffic to enter since the roadway was already there.
And they've already done that for the subdivision next door?
Correct, for 69th. Mr. Chairman.
73rd?
No, it terminates at Orchid Reserve right now. They would have to extend 73rd. Also, 69th is signalized.
Yes.
Okay.
You good, Chip? Anyone else? Would anyone from the public like to comment on this? Seeing none, any additional questions? Call for a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. The second the third agenda item is Harmony Isles, and this is a request for a major site plan and preliminary plat approval for a 384-unit residential plat-over site plan project. Concordia Group is the applicant, Mills Short and Associates LLC are the agent. Zoning classification is RM6, residential multiple family up to 6 units per acre, and A2 agriculture up to 1 unit per 10 acres. Land use designation is M1, medium density residential up to 8 units per acre, and AG2, agricultural 2, up to 1 unit per 10 acres. Proposed density is 5.9 units per acre. Any declaration of ex parte communications on this? No. Anyone who would like to speak on this, please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Staff presentation.
All right, good evening, Chair and members of the board. Before you today is the Harmony Isles Major Site Plan and Preliminary Plat, which is a plat over site plan. Property is located north of 12th Street, west of 98th Avenue, east of 102nd Avenue, and south of what will be 16th Street. It's just an aerial on the screen to give you an idea of kind of what the site's going to look like with its current conditions. There is currently an industrial user that is to the northeast of the site. The overall site plan will be 384 units. This is going to be a two-phase project, so everything that you see in basically non-colored or white will be phase one. Phase one will contain 244 units in total. There will be 145 single-family lots and 98 townhome units. Phase two, which is everything in yellow, will be a total of 140 units and 91 single-family lots and 49 townhome units. Everything to what is now the west of the site that you see that doesn't have anything on it, that is all the urban service area. So there will be no developments that will happen in the urban service area, and it will be left in its current state. Traffic circulation plan is going to call for your standard internal private roadway system. There's going to be a 16th Street extension and roundabout that will be private resident access only. There will also be a full movement 12th Street connection. Stormwater plan, there's going to be a multitude of different stormwater ponds and dry retention areas that will handle all of the stormwater runoff for the site. Landscape plan is going to call for a continuous 25-foot type B landscape buffer around the majority of the perimeter of the site. The western portion, because it does abut the urban service boundary, is required by our land development regulations to have a 50-foot urban service boundary buffer, and that is being provided. The dedication and improvements for the site are the internal and external sidewalk and pedestrian systems, street lighting, common green space and recreation areas. There is also a multitude of traffic improvements. So there's going to be a State Road 60 and 98th Avenue northbound right turn lane, which is going to be an overlap phase with the Venetian Groves project. There's going to be a 12th Street and 98th Avenue southbound right turn lane and a traffic signal that is going to be triggered because of its proximity with Venetian Groves. Finally, a 12th Street access westbound right turn lane, and finally, a 16th Street access extension of the 16th Street paving and the construction of the roundabout. So the construction of the roundabout was actually a requirement of the traffic study. Staff recommends that the PZC grant major site plan and preliminary plat over site plan approval for the Harmony Isles project with the following conditions in the staff report. These conditions generally relate to the final landscape plans and street lighting designs, final tree protection and mitigation plans, installation of all landscape buffer and buffer improvements, installation of all street lighting improvements, installation of all common area and project sidewalks, and finally, the installation of all off-site traffic improvements as outlined in the approved developers agreement. The approved developers agreement will be going to the BCC at their next meeting for their approval and consideration. I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions on the left? Chip?
Now, this is not a PD, it's just a site, okay, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Question is, and I'm not gonna let this stuff die, but is there fencing from the owner with the large pond, or are they gonna be putting fencing in, especially with all the multifamily right there?
There is not any indication that there will be fencing around the stormwater pond. For discussion purposes, the last project that we did have where the Plan and Zoning Board did put this condition on, it did go to BCC, and the BCC decided to remove that condition because it's not consistent with our codes and what we've done in the past. And it was a 5-0 vote, or 4-1, sorry.
That'll be on them. Okay.
Anything else? Anything on the right? No, anyone from the public, would you like to speak on this? I've got one question. So there's, when we see there's an analysis, there's a traffic analysis, and there's a utilities analysis for these big developments. Is there an analysis for the impact that a development like this will have on the landfill?
Mr. Chair, for the record, Ryan Sweeney, Assistant Planning Development Services Director. Yes, but it's almost as if the capacity is guaranteed, if you will. But yes, the solid waste answers to utilities, and they do review. capacity is not really an issue, but believe it or not, they do weigh in on servicing different types of dwellings, particularly how they can handle the trash and recycling bins, especially for this many individual lots, and then for multifamily, the dumpster locations and things of that nature. But as far as capacity,
So servicing the area is a discussion, but capacity of the landfill is not a discussion.
it's not a
this
not
point, or-
right, correct.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that personally, I put 40 pounds of kitty litter into the landfill every month, and 2,000 new cats in the, I know that at one point we talked with the landfill, and the expected life expectancy of that landfill is 40 years. And with this, is that still, and is that still the case?
I know they just did a huge cell expansion. I'm not sure, I can get back to you on, not specific to this project, just in general.
Okay, any other questions? No questions from the public?
I wanted to say something. I brought this up before, and it has to do with the concurrency and landfill being one of them that reminded me. I think we need to look into healthcare concurrency at some point, because, you know, this is almost 400 units. It's getting very hard for anybody who's tried lately to find a new doctor, or I don't know that there's hospital space limits, but new doctors are difficult to find, and appointments are way out, especially initial appointments. So I would just ask you to look into, down the road, not tonight, the idea of healthcare concurrency.
Mr. Muchard, with all due respect, is that the authority of this board, though? Yes, it's a concern, but is that something that we literally decide on?
Let me add one thing and then I'll let you chime in. We do have concurrency requirements for law enforcement and emergency services, which is more of, again, law enforcement and making sure we have fire stations and rescue. Provision of medical care is a private sector sort of item. So Susan, you're nodding, I don't know if you want to add to that, but we do have concurrency requirements for law enforcement as well as emergency services.
Don't you have Parks and Recreation and schools and
Yes, sir. We have all-
everything else you can think of?
Right, but we typically don't delve into a private sector type
That would
provision.
be correct, Mr. Mature and Mr. Sweeney. So it's, concurrency is looking at the services that the local government provides or the actual government, like our sheriff, our law enforcement, our our emergency services. And since healthcare is private, it's not a public, something that's offered by the local government, it's not a public thing, that's not something we look to for a concurrency. It is, I'm not gonna say that that probably isn't, it probably is a concern for, obviously, it should be a concern, but it's not something that we have the ability to regulate or something we deal with through concurrency.
Well, it's my understanding that Cleveland Clinic is still a county-owned hospital.
So
It's
it is-
not
Can we
county-run.
focus on the project at hand and we can have that conversation?
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, anything else? I think we'll call for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Next up is Gifford Gardens, and this is a request for preliminary plat and administrative permit use approval for a 14-acre small lot subdivision. Indian River Habitat for Humanity Incorporated is the applicant. MBV Engineering Incorporated is the agent. The zoning is RM10, residential multifamily up to 10 units per acre. Land use designation is M2, medium density, residential 2, up to 10 units per acre. The proposed density is 4.61 units per acre. Any declaration of ex parte communications? None. Anyone who would like to speak on this issue, please stand to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patrick Murphy, Planning and Development Services, and thank you all for your attendance tonight. I have the next two agenda items. As Mr. Day stated, this is for the Gifford Gardens small lot subdivision for preliminary plat and administrative permit use. Our first slide tonight is the location map. You'll see the project is shown within a square box. It is zone RM10. To the north of the property is the Victory Park Apartments and the Taylor Point Apartments. Those are both zone RM10. To the south and west is RS6 single-family residential zoning. There's various subdivisions throughout the community. They're all zone single-family, so it's integrating into that. You'll see 40th Avenue running along the west side of the project. All of the maps that you'll see tonight, all of them have the north arrow orienting to the top of the page. Aerial shows the development laid out within the existing surrounding area. You can see the apartment buildings just to the north, the single-family homes to the west and the south, and further to the east. The preliminary plat shows this is just one single road that enters from the west, terminates in a cul-de-sac. There are 14 total lots. All lots will have direct access to the internal roadway, which has been designed meeting all of county standards for its physical construction. There are two sidewalks that ring both sides of the road. The road is going to be maintained by the Homeowners Association. The name of the road is Possibility Place. Stormwater plan, you'll see at the very east in the blue polygon, that is the stormwater pond where we'll gather all of the drainage. There is a hatched line running sort of through the middle. That is the piping system. Water is actually collected in a curb and gutter and transferred to the pond. In times of high rainfall, overflow will flow through the weir structure to the west and is transported to an existing ditch running along the west side of 40th Avenue. This preliminary design has been approved by our engineering division, and they will be required to get their stormwater permits prior to their land development permit, which allows for construction. Landscape plan. As part of the small lot subdivision, as a trade-off to go for a smaller lot width than what the zoning allows, they're required to do a perimeter type C landscape buffer along all sides, except for 40th Avenue, which is the road landscape buffer requires a 15-foot wide. There are several existing trees that the developer is going to preserve. I'd like to point out in the very northeast, there are very, very large specimen oak trees that are being preserved, and they carefully worked around those trees with the contours of the pond so they could be saved. There's a few other large trees and palms within the perimeter that are also working into the site, and they're going to plant within all of the open areas to create that buffer. Dedications, improvements, and other conditions. Required for this project is an external sidewalk along 40th Avenue that they're putting in, internal sidewalks meeting the widths of 913.09, which they have complied with. Street lighting. They do have light poles throughout there, and we've looked at the lighting plan initially. We will revisit that during the land development permit to make sure that we don't need any adjustments to that plan. Common green space and recreation area, which they've accommodated within the dry upland areas and throughout their internal sidewalk system. And then the small lot subdivision criteria outlined in 971.41. This criteria basically states that all of the existing homes that are to be sold have to meet an income restriction criteria. So these are really all affordable housing, not where you do a percentage in the rest of market rate, but all 14 homes in the subdivision will meet the criteria established by the state for affordable housing, which is meeting only 80% or more of area median income. With that, staff's recommendation is for PCC to grant preliminary plat and administrative permit use approval for the Gifford Gardens small lot subdivision with the conditions listed in the staff report, which includes final tree protection and mitigation plans, final landscape and buffer plan, street lighting design, the declaration of covenants, which I've already reviewed. They've already met this criteria. They have to actually put the income verification restrictions into their declaration of covenants, which gets recorded in the county records. So that runs with the land, so that stays with the project. So even if the developer was to move on, this project can only exist with those restrictions. And then, of course, the external and internal sidewalks. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have, and the applicant's representative is also in attendance.
Thank you, Patrick. Any commissioner questions on my left?
I have a couple.
Okay.
I noticed that on the plan, there's an existing gravity sewer that's going to be abandoned, it looks like.
Correct.
And then there's a force main there. I didn't see an area for a lift station or anything of that. So are they tying into a lift station somewhere else? Or how are they handling that if the sewage in there?
So my understanding is that this sewage will actually fall by gravity to an existing line running along the west side of 40th Avenue. That's not going to be pumped.
So
to a
it'll
force
gravity
main.
into there?
Yeah, because of the limited number of lots, it wasn't determined that a lift station was needed.
Okay.
Because there's not that much volume going to be coming or flow coming out of those 14 lots. So it was going to be by gravity into an existing line. The one along the north is being abandoned because it terminated to the east, and has been abandoned for quite some number of years. And I think the pipe's actually failing, but it hasn't been in use by the county for a number of years.
Yeah, and I noticed the force main then just to the north of that as well. So I'm assuming they'll tie in and use the force main there at some point.
That is correct.
Is that
yes.
correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yes, and they're working on the final design of that through the utility construction permit, which will be required before the land development permit, so before they ever break ground.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, one more time. Fencing, is there any fencing at all?
No, there's not any fencing proposed on this. This is actually not going to be a year-round wet pond. This is a dry pond.
It's dry retention.
The dry retention. It will have casual water during the stormy season, but it's not going to maintain water. It's not going to have a permanent pool.
And then, I think it'll probably be more a question for the applicant, so I'll wait for that.
Sure.
Good. Anyone on the right have questions? Mark?
I saw, as your representative on affordable housing, I see that this is being built by Habitat, and there are going to be income limits for the potential buyers. I'm just wondering, I know Habitat has limitations on resale, and I wonder if that is going to be the same here, or because it's a little bit different than a normal habitat development, if they're going to be those limits on resale.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, Ryan Sweeney, Assistant Planning Development Services. Mr. Mutcher, two things. One, I'm glad you mentioned that. This is actually, although we didn't really drive it home in the staff report, this is sort of a partnership with the county. We acquired this property by way of foreclosure and then ultimately deeded the land to Habitat. I also want to mention that several of the more involved members of the Gifford neighborhood have been involved in this project and are, this kind of steered as to what they wanted to see. But lastly, Trevor Loomis with Indian River Habitat is here. He can answer your question, but I'm almost certain that this is their typical habitat format where there is a resale limitation, and he can confirm that.
Thank you.
We good? Would the applicant like to answer the questions that staff could not?
Sure.
Name and address, please.
Trevor Loomis with Indian River Habitat for Humanity. You want my home address?
Business addresses. Yep.
4568 US Highway 1. So yeah, to answer the questions about affordability. So this, we build and sell our homes. We're a developer, builder, realtor, lender, all of that. So through the underwriting process, we ensure that the applicant is 80% of the area median income or less. We also provide the financing and the mortgage for that. So part of the mortgage documents on all of these, on every home sale, there are two mortgages. The first one is the mortgage based on repayment. That is an affordable payment based on the applicant's income to be no more than 1/3 of their monthly income at the time of purchase. The second mortgage makes up the difference between that amount and the appraised value. So the sale price of the house is the appraised value. And that is a deferred mortgage. So it's interest-free. No payment is ever required unless the home is sold. At the time of resale, we have right of first refusal. There are a couple of things in place that ensure we can control the resale and ensure that these houses are affordable units in perpetuity. Right of first refusal, there's a shared appreciation agreement, so in the event that over the course of the next 2 decades or something like that, the value of the property skyrockets, as has been known to happen in Florida, that appreciation is shared between the homeowner and Habitat, and it's adjusted over time. So that shared appreciation is paid off over time. But the right of first refusal, in addition to that subsidy that's built in addition to any SHIP funding that is used, SHIP funding also ensures that it's an affordable unit, for the life of that SHIP loan. So there are various different layers built in here to ensure not only affordability but compliance with those income requirements.
I guess one thing I was asking about specifically was whether there's a period of time that the initial owner has to maintain ownership, or can these things be flipped within the affordability limitations?
So the answer is that a person can leave the closing table and go list the house immediately if they want to. However, that wouldn't make any sense because not only is it the most affordable housing option available in the entire region, those affordability devices, as we call them, that I put in place, like shared appreciation, the second mortgage, all of those things are due upon sale. So these things are structured very carefully to ensure that no homeowner is ever trapped in their house, because we never want to punish people for doing better, right? We want to reward higher achievement. And so an opportunity that somebody may have to advance their career, to move to a different area, we want to ensure that they always have that opportunity and are allowed to participate in the economy just like the rest of us. But at the same time, we want to make sure that a house is not flipped for a profit immediately. And so it would not be effective for a person to try to sell that house for a profit, because they wouldn't make one.
Thank you.
You have first right of refusal, I know.
I'm sorry?
You have first right of refusal.
Yes, sir.
May I ask a question?
Yes, yeah.
Regarding, it mentions something in here about rentals, but typically you don't allow rentals. Is that accurate?
So no, we do not. We do have some rentals here and there, but that is within the homeowners association documents. So rentals would not be allowed in this area.
Okay, we good over here? Good over here? Would anyone from the public like to comment on this? If not, if there are no additional questions, call for motion.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Our final item tonight is a public hearing, and this is Glendale Christian School West. It is a request for a special exception use and site plan approval for a grade 6 to 10 private school. Glendale Baptist Church Incorporated is the owner. MBV Engineering Incorporated is the agent. The zoning is A1 Agricultural District up to 1 unit per 5 acres. Land use designation is AG1 Agricultural 1 up to 1 unit per 5 acres. Any declaration of ex parte communications with this item?
Mr. Chair, for the record, both of my children attend the Glendale Christian School East, and my family, we also attend Glendale Baptist Church. So in an abundance of caution, I'm going to recuse myself and leave you in the capable hands of Patrick and Brandon. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone who would like to speak on this, please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Very good. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my children do not attend this school. They're actually in college, and that's why I work to pay for that. But we have Glendale Baptist Church, grade 6 through 10 private school, special exception use. Location map shows the property site, the 17-acre tract in a red triangle with 58th Avenue Southwest to its east. As the chairman stated, this property is zone A1. Property to the north, south, and west is also A1. Across 58th Avenue, which is a 4-lane divided highway, is single-family homes that are all zone plan development, both the Citrus Springs and the Hammock Lakes plan developments. Aerial map shows the existing site laid out within the surrounding area. To the north is a very large undeveloped tract of land. To the west and south are single-family homes on estate lots. And then you can see the 2 planned developments across 58th Avenue to the east. Site plan, in the blue polygon is the existing church facility. The classrooms are actually going to be built inside the church. There are no new buildings being added to this site. They currently have a permit to do interior renovation for Sunday school only, and that's going to transition to the school once this is approved by the Board of County Commissioners, which we're all hoping, and they go through their final building and fire plan reviews. The green polygons you see in the front are existing stormwater ponds. In the very west of the site is a cell tower compound, which has really nothing to do with the school, but if anyone wonders what that big square out there, that's what that is. The traffic circulation plan, all traffic will enter and exit through an existing driveway in the very southeast corner of the site. This is a full access driveway. There is a median cut in 58th Avenue, and there is a northbound left turn into the site that already exists. The shaded area to the north, that is going to be a stabilized emergency access driveway. That driveway doesn't exist now, but it will in the future, but it's only for emergency access. It won't be for any other traffic coming into the site. This traffic circulation plan has been routed to and reviewed and approved by both our traffic division and our fire prevention bureaus. It currently shows around 20 vehicles can be stacked on site within their existing driveway, which then loops throughout the parking lot for drop off and pickup. Based on the number of students proposed for this school, I'll back up just a second, which is a maximum of 70. We do not foresee there being any traffic issues. There's plenty of area on this large site to accommodate that traffic. Landscape plan, the green amoebas, looking at the very west side, those are basically very large tracts of existing vegetation that's very densely wooded that more than meets the perimeter buffer that's required. For this type of project, for a special exception that allows for school facilities on an A1, all of the properties must have a minimum 20-foot wide type C buffer. Is more than well met in the west. There are a lot of existing trees along the perimeter. They do have an approved landscape plan that shows plantings within any pockets that do not make that to form that complete buffer. That has been reviewed and approved by yours truly. There's also a lot of existing trees around the pond and throughout the site to help beautify it. Staff recommendations. Staff recommends that the PZC recommend that the BCC grant special exception use approval for the Glendale Baptist Church 6 through 9 private school with the conditions listed in the staff report. Those conditions are: a formal review of the life safety plan shall be conducted by the Indian River County Building Division and must be approved prior to issuance of a change of occupancy permit to convert the existing building into a school. That is currently taking place now. Maximum student enrollment shall not exceed 70 students. And any future request to increase the student enrollment, add additional grade levels, or to construct new principal use buildings may require additional special exception approvals. That will be on a case-by-case basis as we review that. Before I turn it over to question and answer period, I did want to point out, because I was remiss in not actually stating this, there is specific land use criteria that this special exception use is evaluated by. I will actually run through those real quick for the benefit of the commission and those in attendance. Sites for secondary schools shall be located near thoroughfares so as to discourage traffic along local residential streets and residential subdivisions. And elementary schools shall be discouraged from locating adjacent to major arterial roadways. The site fronts upon and has direct access to 58th Avenue South, which is an arterial roadway. It's not a local road. And as far as the setback for elementary, there's only one grade class, a 6th, that actually meets that criteria. This school is set back over 300 feet from 58th Avenue, so it more than meets the special requirements. For the type of facility proposed, the minimum special requirements for sites shall be similar to standards utilized in Indian River County School Board and the state. Based on this small size for 70 students, it more than meets those special requirements. No building designed for occupancy by students shall be located within 100 feet of any property line not adjacent to a street or roadway, and no building designed for occupancy by students shall be located within 50 feet for any property line abutting a local roadway. The site is not adjacent to any mixed use, any TND sites, or any zoning districts within the larger criteria of this item. The building is set back more than 100 feet from any property line, and it's actually 157 feet from any property line, so this criteria is more than met. The applicant shall demonstrate the existing proposed recreation, parking, and traffic circulation and facilities adequately accommodate projected student enrollment. Due to this size of the school with only 70 students, they have met this with existing facilities that they have, and they are in compliance. The buffering that we already talked about, they have exceeded that, and that brings me back to the recommendation, which we are recommending approval. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer those, and the applicant is in attendance.
Thank you, Patrick. Any commissioner questions on the right?
I'm curious as to why you refer to this as an elementary school. The school district seems to be changing their grade designation from elementary school, as I understand it, is generally K to 5, and then 6 to 8 is a middle school, and then 9 to 12 would be high school. But now they're talking about elementary schools being K to 8. But this 6 to 10 doesn't line up with the public school, and I don't suppose it needs to. But
No.
I wouldn't call it an elementary school.
No, and Mr. Mucher, you're right in the way that schools are sort of changing what they're called and what grades they're really include, especially with charter schools and private schools. They're kind of taking the lead in how the grades are put together. This is really hybrids in 6 through 12, and the reason why we have elementary and middle school criteria in our code is because our code sort of hasn't caught up with the times, if you will, on how grade levels are grouped. 6th grade is still considered elementary grade in our code. So our current LDRs require us to evaluate based on that. 7, 8, and 9 are really still middle school, and 10, 11, and 12 is high school, how our codes are based. So when we looked at this, we looked at this as it being all of those criteria and having to meet all of them, and they do. But in reality, this is really a hybrid of 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, so it's kind of a little bit of each. But really, the way these schools go nowadays is they have a lot of different grade levels, and they have different institutions and different teachings that takes place, but it's really just a hybrid.
Right, but don't you think maybe planning on to update those things to those grade levels to what exists in the county today?
Yes, there's a few codes that we need to amend, that we need to bring back before this board and for the Board of County Commissioners. These are one of the things, these are one of the items of the code that we do want to take a look at. Just takes time to go over them all.
Okay, but this qualifies whether it's
It
elementary.
meets all of our land development criteria for elementary or middle school.
Okay, thank you.
Anything on the left?
A couple of questions. There's a discussion about what was surrounding it. How much of that property is actually inside the urban service area, where it could be developed in the future? And then there's restrictions as to what could be developed because it's near a school, if it's inside the urban service area.
You're talking about the land to the north of this?
To the north, to the south, to the west?
So the urban service boundary actually runs down 58th Avenue. To the east is in the urban service area, and to the west is out. So development could take place, but the development's going to be somewhat limited in its intensity that it can develop.
Okay, because it's a school that can do the ag, or church that can do the ag, but this is part of that donut that we know about, that's, okay,
Correct.
all right.
Yeah, we have a couple donuts in the county.
Yeah.
We do.
And then, okay, so that would answer that one question. And then the 70 student limitation, that's basically based on the school district, is what you're saying?
That's based on their projected student enrollment.
Okay, and Do they have that student enrollment now, or? I'm looking at the potential for expansion and what that's going to do and when that's going to happen and all.
I think based on student population projections, it may be best if we bring a representative of the school up to address that question.
Okay. I'm done. We'll do that when the hearing gets open.
Anyone else? Would the applicant like to come and answer the questions? Name and address, please.
Good evening, Rebecca Grohal, MBV Engineering, 1835 20th Street, Vero Beach, here on behalf of our applicant, Pastor Randy Fullerton. I'm going to turn it over to him in just a brief second. I would like to thank staff for their assistance in the review and getting this onto the agenda and before the board. I'd like to introduce, I would like to recognize all the people in the audience who are here tonight in support of the school. I think if we just have everybody wave. Perfect. So you can see we're very excited to be here tonight. I would again like to respectfully request approval. I'm here to answer any questions you might have that are technical in relationship to the site plan. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Randy Fullerton.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you so much for allowing us to come before you again. I don't know if you remember me, and we came before you about 3 or 4 years ago, and you gave us approval for a school plot for 400 students located on the corner of 4th Street and 27th Avenue, catty corner from Citrus. We were excited at that time. I'm the pastor of Glendale Baptist Church, and one of our missions is Glendale Christian School. Glendale Christian School is no fly-by-night school. It has a history of 49 years of service of educating young men and women to be outstanding adults. Glendale Christian School has been there and has educated hundreds, if not thousands, of people throughout those 49 years. We have suffered from success. We have a tremendous curriculum. We do the ABECA curriculum, which is the hardest curriculum that you could find. We still teach cursive writing to kindergartners, and all of our kids write in cursive, and they learn how to count, and they spell, not just phonetics and stuff. It's a tough curriculum, and because of that, we have an overwhelming demand of people to want to attend our school. Our campus located right now at 790 27th Avenue is completely full. Every year, we turn away tens or dozens of people who want their kids in our school. We're right now where we can't even accept siblings of kids into our school that are growing up. We were excited about the idea of building a new school, and you approved this 3 or 4 years ago, about 2020, and then as soon as you did that, something called COVID hit. And after we got through COVID, the price of our school more than tripled. And we said, there's no way we can build that right there on that corner. So we said, let's wait and pray. And we did, and lo and behold, just a little over a year ago, our association, our Baptist Association, approached us and said, we have a church that is willing to sell their property of 17 acres on 58th Avenue. Would you be willing to buy that? We said, of course we would, and we did. And on 2023 Christmas Day, or Christmas Eve, we began holding church services at 455 58th Avenue Southwest for Glendale Baptist Church. We turned the campus, what we call Glendale East, located there on the corner of 8th Street and 27th Avenue, totally over to the school. And so they took control of the chapel, which sits about 120 people, and the whole campus. And still, we are full. I don't know if you know much about the location of where our school is now on 58th Avenue. There was a church there, had been there for many years. They had some hard times, and they built the building, but did not get to develop the floors within that building. And in that building, there were 3 floors that were like half finished, never developed. And they had sat that way for 20 years, Our location there at 455 58th Avenue is kind of a mark for the city because our roof was put on by another church. The interior of the sanctuary was finished by another church. And throughout the years in the history of that church, all the churches in the community of Vero Beach have had a part in what was going on out there. And now for those floors to sit empty for 20 years and only the sanctuary being used, well, we moved in there and we realized right away that we could finish up the floors and that we could have part of our school out there within the footprint of what is there currently. Not turning one spade of dirt, not making one foot of expansion. And so we looked and saw where the need was, and our need for growth is primarily in our primary schools, kindergarten through third grade. And so we looked at our junior high and we looked at our high school. The high school, we fall off on high school because we don't offer the extracurricular things that the schools like charter offer. And so many of our kids, when they get to 8th grade, they leave us, but we are licensed to do high school. And so we have very few kids in that. What we project is that we have enough room out there for 70 students, 6th grade through 10th grade. And that's with the rooms that we finished that are currently there. We're not changing anything of the imprint or footprint, as you heard Patrick say. And so we needed to finish out those rooms for our church. When we started having church out there, we had a lot of kids that had no place to go to Sunday school, to go to Wednesday night services, to go to learn about missions or stuff like that. And so we were going to finish these rooms anyway. And so we decided to get a special exception permit to move our junior high and our 9th and 10th grade, because that's all we offer out there to Glendale, what we call Glendale West. We hope that you will approve this again. It's been an odyssey of about a year. Patrick has been very helpful with us going through this process. We have answered every question that the county has asked of us. We've tried to go above and beyond. We've cooperated in every way that we can. And to me, that is pleasing noise behind me, because that's some of our students. And I hope that you won't disappoint them tonight. And so with that, I won't say any more, except if you have some questions you'd like to ask me, I will try to answer them if I can.
Thank you, Pastor. I think there is a question on the table that we hoped you would be able to answer. So Chip, you want to?
If you did, with 70 student limitation.
Yeah.
already.
I know it seems weird when you just look at it, but that's the reason why, because of what we're trying to do and where we're going. We're trying to maximize our space.
Pastor, just so I understand, Chip, you said that was your projection, but it would be limited to 70?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all we have space for.
Yes, sir.
We can only do what we have space for. And, every year we have, the fire marshal comes through our current school and the health officials come through, and we stay within the standards of what you guys regulate, because we want to do that. And so that's why we had that odd number, But again, I imagine we'll be turning away kids again. We started enrolling, and we just can't take them all. And that breaks my heart. It really does. So if you have no other questions.
Any other questions on the right?
I have a question for the planning staff, not.
All right, hold off then. Any other questions? Okay. I also have a question. Thank you, Pastor.
Okay, we also have 40 pounds of kitty litter a month in our home. I want you to know that. So.
I don't see how they absorb it all. Yeah. So I have a question for staff. How does the emergency exit entrance work? Is it gated? Is it locked?
So typically, those are gated. It can be by Knox box, but that's restricted so that public cannot use it just because it's there. Sometimes if you have an entrance, people are going to use it, but 9 times out of 10, those are gated entrances.
They are gated?
Yes.
And locked?
Correct.
And so emergency has entrance access. What if it's going the other way? What if there's an emergency and people are going out as an emergency exit? Does that create a bottleneck?
If there's an emergency exiting the site,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, what people will do is just take both lanes. So you'll have double cars exiting, because nothing's coming in, so when people want to get out, they're gonna take that path of least resistance. You're gonna have them taking both of the driveway, 2 cars are going out at the same time.
Of the regular driveway?
Correct.
But what if the threat mandates that people go out that emergency exit?
So the owner can have an arrangement with the fire chief to have a key on their side, so they can unlock it. So you can have all patrons leaving through the paved driveway and fire emergency coming in through that stabilized access driveway.
Okay. Mark, what's your question?
I understand that this is not in the urban service area, and that they're utilizing an existing footprint and structure. if they were to want to expand the structure, how would that work?
It depends on how large the structure is. I mean, we'd have to evaluate whatever application comes in and see whether or not it can be accommodated based on their current septic or connection to sewer. It depends on what they submit. So there's not one size fits all answer to that. It really going to depends on what is the extent of their expansion if they ever want to expand. And that's why we have a condition in there that should they want to expand, it may come back before this board because it's really going to depend on how large. There is some leeway that we can do that from a staff level approval, but it really just really going to depend on the size.
Okay, thank you.
That brought up an issue because I made an assumption maybe I shouldn't have made. The wastewater is disposed how? Through sewer or through septic?
They're on sanitary sewer, if I can respond to that.
Okay,
I'm
thank
happy
you.
to. They're on sanitary sewer as well as Indian River County potable water.
That's what I thought, but then I started talking septic.
And if I could just to address the question about the emergency access, that was the emergency access when the church was originally built. Over time, it's kind of become overgrown, so we're proposing just to go back and restabilize it. I don't think it's going to be evident that it's a full access, but it would provide additional egress as well as ingress onto the
Right,
site.
so right now, there is no emergency exit or entrance.
It existed a while ago. It's still kind of
You
there.
drive your car through it today?
We drove our car through it a couple of weeks ago, a couple months ago. It's just not very clear. It's an emergency.
Okay, good. This is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing to anyone that wants to comment on this. Either podium, name and address.
My name's Grant Foster. I live at 922 Yearling Trail. I'm also the pastor of Riverside Church in Sebastian, Florida, 11205 Roseland Road, and I'm just here in support of this school. We have students that come from Sebastian. I've actually done chapel for this school for 37 years, and I've seen the success. And I think personally they're taking a derelict building that was left uncared for many years and turning it into something that could be really good. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, board. My name is Cynthia Hyatt. I live at 5993 Ridge Lake Circle in Vero Beach. I am a homeowner in Indian River County. My daughter is currently in her 6th year at Glendale Christian School. We chose Glendale as we found that there were many generational families that attend the school since it's been in Indian River County operating for almost 50 years, as you heard earlier. What I'd like to say about that is we have students whose grandparents attended this school, and as families grow, children come and they want to go where their siblings went or where their grandparents went, and we need the space. It would be a blessing for all of our students and our parents and staff if this committee would grant the special exception use for the property at 58th Avenue. And thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's James Ballard. I live at 505 65th Avenue Southwest. I actually live right down the street from the proposed school. I live right off of 5th Street Southwest, which is the road to the south. My daughter's been going to Glendale since she was 1st grade, and now she's in 8th grade. And I'm hoping that you will give approval for this because I want her to be able to continue going after she graduates 8th grade.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any additional commissioner questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Any commissioner matters? Any planning matters?
I just want to note that the next scheduled plan and zoning meeting, we may have one agenda item, but it's still yet to come to fruition. So we'll let you know if we end up having one. Just one so far.
Thank you.
Wait. You spoiled us with this. Now you're going to bring us one?
Thank you for that.
Well, it was supposed to be on tonight's agenda, but it got pulled for something. so,
Any
you know.
attorney matters? No attorney matters. We're adjourned.
Good job.